Good morning and welcome to Harts Creek in Canterbury, New Zealand, near where I live. I'm out this morning for a morning of bird photography, and I thought I'd talk along the way a little bit about the most useful lens you can take with you on a trip like this. Spoiler alert, it's not this one. Let's carry on in a little bit further. Just found a family of swans down here. I'm gonna go see if I can take a few photos. Well, I've got here to a spot where the river widens out. You can get down a little bit lower, and it's a great spot just to wait for some birds to sort of swim through on this river, and you can get some really nice shots here. If you're anything like me and you go out for bird photography, you've probably got a large zoom lens like this one. This is the Sony 400 to 800, and I absolutely love this thing. It's super sharp. It captures amazing images and it's got tons of reach, so I can get in really close, which I find is really important, especially in scenes like this where the birds may not come quite as close as I'd like them to. As amazing as this lens is, it's not the one that I make sure I've always packed in my kit. That would be this wee thing right here. This is the kit lens that came with my camera. I shoot on Sony, so it's the Sony 28 to 70. Now, this is not an amazing lens. It certainly doesn't have the best image quality. None of the specs are the best that you can get. But the thing that is special for me about this lens is that it's cheap. And because of that, I don't mind putting it in the outer pocket of my backpack when I'm going through the bush. And I know that I'll take as much care as I can, but if I do smash it, I can afford quite cheaply to replace it. And that means I can take it with me everywhere I go. So when I get to a scene like this, if there aren't any birds around, but I can see an amazing landscape shot that I could take perhaps instead, I'm not just limited to a big prime or a big zoom that can't, do anything else. As amazing as these lenses are, they're not particularly versatile. And so that's why taking this cheap kit lens with me gives me that little bit of extra versatility to be able to shoot other things that I might find along the way. So there's quite a nice landscape scene here as this path sort of meanders past the tree, and it's not something that I could ever capture with this monstrous zoom lens. And so if I hadn't taken a little kit lens, something that I can just take some different sorts of images with, I wouldn't have been able to capture this scene. So I'm back at home now, editing some of the photos that I took this morning. Now I'm certainly not saying that you should be careless with your camera gear. Everything that I own I've had to save up for with my own money, and I'm really fortunate to have been able to afford some really nice gear that I absolutely love using. I do believe though that it is better for a lens or any piece of equipment to die out in the field doing photography in nature than it is for it to just sit on a shelf collecting dust and growing mould. So with that in mind, I took a look online to check the pricing on the Sony kit lens, and I think this is pretty typical for cheap lenses for most camera systems. Brand new, that lens can be had on its own for 675 New Zealand dollars or thereabouts. That's 390 US dollars. And typically the lens is on special a lot of the time, and you can buy it much cheaper obviously as part of a kit. But the real value, I think, is on the second-hand market. Your local camera store probably has a few copies of kit lenses for your system, and photographers will typically trade these in when they're looking to upgrade their gear. So you can find them often in very good condition with pretty low mileage. I found this morning it was about 330 New Zealand dollars, that's about 190 US dollars to buy a second-hand copy of the lens that's in great condition. Now that price, certainly not keen to have to part with that kind of money, but it's not going to put a big dent into my hobby in the same way that losing one of my expensive full-frame bodies or that beautiful 400 to 800 zoom lens would, where it would potentially take me several months or longer to save up and replace them. Now, I thought I could look through some of the images that I've captured with that kit lens over the last few years, and I'm going to focus specifically on images where I was out looking for birds, but having that second lens in my bag gave me options. This first photo of some rock formations near Onawe Peninsula in Akaroa is a great example. In order to capture an image like this with a zoom lens, I would have had to be standing about 20 meters out in the ocean. Not an option. Next up, this photo of the New Brighton South Pier in Christchurch is another great example. I was coming back from a bird photography session and the sun was just setting and the last of the colour was fading out of the sky. And I saw this scene and it just looked really nice, and I thought this would be perfect for a sort of a long exposure landscape shot at night. And having that second lens in the bag meant it was an option. And lastly, this photo of some mushrooms taken near Runanga on the west coast of the South Island is another great example. I was out looking for birds, but coming across some amazing mushrooms that were just growing near the side of the path. I was able to try my hand at a whole nother genre of photography, and that's not something I would have been able to do again if I didn't have that second option lens sitting in my bag ready to go. So my advice is, if you're a bird photographer and you're out with a big zoom lens, chuck a second lens of some sort into your bag. Find one that's cheap enough that you don't need to stress about it, and just enjoy the fact that if you come across something, you'll be able to have some options and you'll be able to get some different kinds of images. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already checked out my first video where I talked a little bit about motivation for getting out and getting into photography, be sure to check that out. I'll link that below, and I'll see you in the next one.